Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech Point Africa podcast. Today we'll be discussing the different plans that CBN has for different industries that affect the economy. We'll start with CBN's intention for crypto websites in Nigeria. Then we'll move from there to the new CBN guidelines for Bureau de Change operators in Nigeria. And then we end with updates from the Monetary Policy Committee meeting that happened on Tuesday and the CBN governor's comments on how we want to revive our economy. Thank you for joining us. I am Oluwanifemi Kolawole, and in the studio with me today is
I'm Bolu.
And as usual, we have a guest with us, virtually with us in the studio today, who will be joining us in all these conversations, and especially the new guidelines that CBN has for BDC operators. With us today is Malik Bolakale. He's the CEO and co-founder of a fintech startup, StartButton. Malik, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Nifemi.
Yes, thank you. And I think we should just move quickly into the story because there are a lot of things to talk about. And whether we talk about it here in the studio or we talk about it in the marketplaces or in the shops, in the store, they are talking about Nigerian economy everywhere. So today, let's start with CBN's plans for crypto websites in Nigeria. Bolu, what's the update? What's up?
I'm sure everyone already knows that CBN had plans to block. Okay, let's not say CBN, but there were people from telcos that told us that they got instructions to block some crypto websites.
I love how you started.
Right.
That is the way we made things in Nigeria.
Yes. So they got those instructions to block crypto websites, and some of the reasons given were because these websites have a role to play in the devaluation of the naira that we've seen for some months now, and blocking these websites might help reduce that devaluation of the naira. So as of now, websites like Binance, right? If you go on Binance, whether you're using MTN or Airtel, I'm not sure about Glo, but for those two mobile networks, if you visit those websites, they will not be available. So same with Coinbase, and just recently, even local crypto exchanges like Quidax. Quidax is no longer working. Luno as well, no longer working. So that is what is going on with crypto websites now.
Okay, so if I know people that are affected, truly affected, knows what it means to be blocked from using an app from a country.
Okay, just to be clear, the apps are still working. It's just the websites that are not available.
The websites are not available.
Yes, but
so it was just like what happened when Nigerians couldn't use Twitter. Like the telcos that are your network providers and any other platform or fiber that you use to browse, you can't access some particular URLs or websites through those. So that is what is going on with this crypto website. So the CBN governor made a comment on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yes.
And
okay.
when he made the comment, I was like, okay, is this our problem? So one, you're going to tell us the comment he made because a journalist that was at that meeting asked the question that what is the CBN's plan for this crypto website, and the governor made a comment about how much volume of money is being moved through these platforms, particularly Binance, and why they have to do what they have to do. So tell us what the comment is, and whether...
Okay. All right, so very interesting comment. The CBN governor, Yemi Cardozo, I'll not say his nickname, but... All right, so the comment, he said that $26 billion, right, was moved through Binance in 2023. Right, so that's a significant amount of money. Although Binance has not confirmed, there's really I don't know which other way to confirm, but people who have worked at crypto exchanges, for example, someone who used to work at FTX said that the volumes, right, that Nigerians do on crypto platforms are not as much as we think they are, right?
Okay.
I mean, compared to a country like South Africa, they are not that much, right? So the problem now is we don't know exactly how much those countries are doing and compare it to what the CBN governor has said. But if we are to go by what the CBN governor has said, that is a very huge amount of money, right? So
just P2P.
Yes, so it's
mostly P2P.
Yeah, it's probably going to be P2P, going to be regular trades that people do on the platform, right? So, but then if you look at it through the lens of the information we already have, so we already know that Nigerians do. We already know that about almost $68 billion came into Nigeria through crypto, right? Between June 2022 and June 2023. So within that year, almost $68 billion, right? So we might say, because Binance is one of the largest crypto platforms in the country, so if 26 billion was so it's possible that 26 billion was done on that one platform, right? So in saying that, I think because another thing he said was that this amount of money is being moved, but we don't know who is moving it. We don't. So basically saying they don't have control over that money. So for example, with IMTOs, they're able to easily regulate IMTOs. They know how much they are bringing in.
International money transfer operators.
International money transfer operators. So there's a revenue they can earn on those remittances that are coming in. But with crypto, it's difficult, right?
That's the plan. That's the whole idea.
Yes, that's the whole idea, right? And then after that, we now also heard people saying, oh, they want to know the users on this platform, Nigerian users on these platforms, what
like
exactly they're
Bolu.
doing. Which now makes things very interesting, and at the same time now makes it scary again. So on one hand, it makes sense that so much money is probably leaving Nigeria or entering Nigeria, and our CBN, yes, and it's unaccounted for. Like it really shouldn't be that way. But on the other hand, right, based on what has happened with these exchanges already, which is trying to block them, right, that does not really solve the problem, right? Because what the thing with crypto is, even if you block these central exchanges, right, you are now going to make it very difficult, because Binance asks KYC, right? Okay, if you want them to, so it's easy for you to like regulate them because they are a central exchange, right? Now we now have other platforms that are called decentralized exchanges. People will move to these places, right? And
VPN.
Then probably when you still leave VPN, there are things that the government cannot touch,
okay,
right? And these decentralized exchanges are one of them. If they even block those websites, you can use VPN for them, right? But then you can't hold anyone on the people that have created these platforms. Like you can't say, oh, this is the CEO.
You're responsible for it.
Who are so people will move to these places. People will do peer-to-peer by themselves. I mean, there are Telegram platforms where people are.
Yes.
And I know people that are doing $2, $3 million, $10 million, in transactions daily. Right. So I think the CBN might not be, going about looking for a way to regulate those platforms. I don't think they are going about it the correct way.
So something I'm curious about, right? The reason why Cardoso made that comment was how he's suggesting that moving that kind of money behind CBN is one of the problems affecting the naira or the economy. She was doing the look on your face is looking like you want to call somebody's bluff. But I'm just saying, like, is it possible like that will be one of the problems that Nigeria's economy is facing?
Sorry, Malik, do you want to answer that question? They can.
I wanted to just chime in briefly, right? I don't think that's the challenge, or that's not the big elephant in the room, right? I mean, I agree to a large extent with Bolu, right? I feel like CBN's primary challenge is monitoring, supervision, and the lack of visibility on that front. which is they don't know how much is being moved and by whom, right? And I mean, they feel that that will be, to a large extent, causing some kind of speculation within the ecosystem. And that's like what is driving the price of the Naira. But the truth is, right, above all of that that's happening on either P2P crypto platforms, there's also the BDCs that are the ones determining the rates. And when I say BDCs, I don't mean the BDCs that even have the license, because that's another thing, right? I mean the
The one
BDCs
that will block you on your way in Allen.
exactly. Exactly in Yaba or in Ikeja or wherever, or Usetu,
Yeah.
or Zone 4 in Abuja. Those are the guys, right? Ultimately. And you'd find that the ones that are even legitimate amongst them are like behind the speculation to a large extent, right? So what they do is, I mean, then when CBN was still, and which is, I mean, we'll talk about that. It's one of my biggest worry with them going back to the status quo to say, okay, you know what, we want to start giving money to BDCs again. Because without fixing the underlying problem, I don't think they should do that. It would cause more harm than good, right? So people would basically get like 10, 15 BDC licenses, right? One person, and basically get $20,000 allocation weekly for each license, right? So one person can potentially get $200,000 per week, right? And then sell with the 100 Naira margin, right, on top of it, right? And then because some of them do have this money, they can finish selling the 200 or not even sell the 200 and say, money has finished. Dollar is now scarce. Nobody has dollars. So they want to increase the price. And there's really nothing you do because you go to the banks, right, that you want to pay your child's school fees and the bank asks you to wait on queues for like 2-3 weeks. So definitely if you're very desperate to send money to your child, and I'm giving that as an example because that's another sector that, I mean, a lot of people are not looking at, like schools, people traveling, right? A lot of people are jackpotting out of Nigeria and looking for dollars every day for proof of funds and everything, right? So there's like all of those challenges everywhere. So I feel like CBN's problem when it comes to crypto is not necessarily the speculation, because speculation is actually happening from the market. That's why sometimes even on crypto platforms, people will typically wait for trade till like 9 a.m. in the morning or 10, which is when the black market or the parallel market would open to get a sense of what the rate is at the black market and then use that to peg whatever they're selling on the exchanges, right? So I don't think it's so much of Binance speculation as it is of like street trading speculation or like black market speculations that has really driven everything crazy.
On March 14, 2024, TechPoint Africa will be hosting a workshop for business owners, entrepreneurs, HR professionals, startup founders, and legal and compliance team from any industry. And the focus is to learn the 5 biggest hiring and employment mistakes that can lead to litigation, penalties, and loss of funds. You also learn how to avoid these mistakes. Taking this workshop is startup attorney Ogheneruemu. He is the lead partner at E&C Legal. Registering for this workshop will help you learn how to catch loopholes that increase the chances of litigation, teach you how to assess your workforce to know whether it is legally compliant or not, help you spot early signs of an employee that will get you into a legal trouble, and how to make proper documentations that will give you a defense during legal challenges. To register, go to www.techpoint.africa/workshop/the Employer Handbook. www.techpoint.africa/workshop/the Employer Handbook. We'll come back to the BDC conversation. Okay. And it's like the CBN is just throwing some things at the wall, looking for what sticks, because we know the problem. The economy is a lot of trouble, and it's just like, let me do this, let me do that, let's try this, let's try that. Apart from what some of the things we will discuss later, which are like some proven measures that have been taken by different countries during times like this. But coming after crypto websites and all. There was even something that we heard yesterday about, we don't know whether CBN is behind or something, but we heard that something is going on with some Binance executives.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we heard yesterday that two Binance executives are currently detained, right, by the office of the country's national security advisor, and their passports have been seized. A personal source told me that they were detained because they basically want Binance to take down its naira to dollar pairing feature on the platform, and I think Binance has yielded because as of last night, there was you can't do peer-to-peer trading again, right? I wanted, thank God I had to do one yesterday. I did it early in the morning, and checked again last night.
Come and arrest the house.
Let them try it first.
He said,
not in the house when they're doing it. Please.
All right. I don't see anywhere where peer-to-peer trading is illegal, but let's say I'm not a lawyer, but please, so I'm like, all right.
I thought you were not scared.
No, okay. So peer-to-peer wasn't working again. No one was listing USDT for sale. No one was listing USDT to buy, and it's just so surprising. And we've now seen that a lot of local crypto folks have also followed suit. On board said they are stopping, trade USDC trade for now.
Wow.
Luno has done the same thing. So right now, yes, the arrest has happened, but a lot of platforms are basically on hold because you need those things to like now you want to buy a particular cryptocurrency on Quidax, for example. You need to buy USDT first and then convert, right? So I don't know. It's the crypto market is in a mess.
I think before we move on from that story to the next thing, you are a player in that space, as it were.
Please don't let them arrest.
Where's your license?
No, hold it with your chest. No, I'm not a player, like a consumer,
like a user of those platforms.
Yes, a user of that platform. So if you, as it were, now for somebody that's some people's like livelihood. They trade.
Yes.
They do P2P as livelihood.
Yes.
If you want to talk about alternatives, what do they do at this point? Do they just put their lives on hold?
Oh,
what are the possibilities? What do they do?
Business must go on. So what they would do is, well, Binance is no longer there. What they now do is interact to people directly, right?
Okay.
If you want to sell, if you have USDT, you need to sell for naira.
Maybe returning customers.
Yes, you have to reach out to that person directly. There are Telegram groups where you can go on, list ads and stuff like that. Telegram is. I think I recently just found out that they have some like really interesting tools where a Telegram platforms can almost serve like as a crypto exchange on its own, right? So they will use things like that in the meantime. But the downside to this is those platforms actually help. They make things safer for you. So right now, the government is pushing Nigerians into a territory where they could get scammed. Because if I'm interacting with someone directly, where the Binance escrow feature is no longer there, where the customer care that could be like an intermediary between the both of us is no longer there, the person might say, "Oh, send me your 250K. I'll send you the USDT equivalent." And till tomorrow, I'm still waiting for him.
There's nobody to hold you responsible.
So those are the issues.
The waters are murky. Stay safe. Continue your businesses, and hope everything gets back to normal.
Yeah,
hopefully. So we move from there to CBN's new guidelines for bureau de change operators in Nigeria. So Malik, just give us like the dumbed down version of what those guidelines are before we start talking about their implications.
Yeah, absolutely. So CBN is aiming to sort of revise the guideline for licensing and operations of BDCs in Nigeria. right? Basically, it's aimed to sanitize the industry to a large extent, right? Now mandating BDCs to be very well capitalized, probably using that to eliminate some street tradings, right? And I mean, the key points in the guideline is the very key one is first the capital requirement, right? And then the tiering of BDCs. So now you have like two tiers of BDCs, tier one and tier two. Tier one can operate across Nigeria, and the capital requirement for that is essentially 2 billion, which is a lot compared to what it was before. Generally, I think it was just 35 million. So increasing it from 35 million to 2 billion is quite significant, right? And then there's the tier two one that can operate within a state with 3 branches, and that's essentially 500 million. Even tier two is more than how many percent now? Right? The previous one, right? And it's very, very baffling for like a lot of people in the ecosystem. And the other major highlight is the digitization of the BDCs. Now, like I mentioned earlier, one of the problems is like CBN feels they don't have visibility into what is happening, like the trades, like everything. So digitization, they believe, would help with that, give a level of visibility into how trades are being executed by BDCs, right? So they can essentially track every kobo that they give out, just like with banks, right? When banks keep money in vaults and like take money from the CBN, they're essentially able to track how much is in the vaults, do like physical audits and like do a whole lot of that. So it's a similar scrutiny that they're now extending to BDCs, mandating them to connect to CBN's reporting platforms, mandating them to carry out KYC by connecting directly to various databases for verification. So they're connecting to NIMC's database, connecting to FIRS for taxes as well. And I mean, we feel that those changes would really, really help sanitize and probably create opportunities for some fintechs as well. Now, another bit is the card issuing one, which is like quite interesting, right? So just like the way banks would do with BTAs and PTAs when they don't want to give you cash, I think GT Bank is notorious for that. If you go there asking for like BTA or PTA, they would usually put the money in a card and then give you that card for your travel. Again, back to the whole essence of like being able to track and have visibility. They've also reduced the amount that you can actually get from a BDC to $500, right? Anything above $500 has to be in an account or in a card, right? So for foreigners, if you're coming to Nigeria, you have a local bank account, you'll be issued a card. You can use that Naira card to do your transactions locally. And whatever is left in the card, you can convert back to USD when you're traveling. I mean, it's expected as a foreigner, you're not even bringing anything more than $10,000 into the country in cash. So, but if you bring $10,000 and you happen to want to change $10,000, that has to be reported. Source of funds has to be reported as well, to cater to issues around money laundering. Another very interesting part about like the new regime is the fact that like they've now halted shareholders from holding more than one license. Like it used to be in the past where you apply for multiple licenses so that you can get like more allocation, right? That will no longer be possible. But it's also begs to, I mean, like one question that rings in my head is whether CBN, I mean, now they've allowed BDCs to have access to their weekly $20,000 now, right? But I can't imagine having capital of about $2 million dollars thereabout, or let's just say like 2 billion naira, and then you will be giving me $20,000 to do business every week. I mean, when am I going to be able to like make
Incorporate
money?
your
I mean, yeah,
investment.
find that like the $2 billion is not like going to be locked up somewhere. Of course, it's going to be locked for the duration of like the application, but it's going to be given to you to carry on your business subsequently. But I mean, what can like 20,000, like why would I want to lock up $2 billion applying for a license for about 6 months thereabout? And then when the thing comes out, I cannot do more than like 20,000. I mean, so I'm hoping that that limit would get increased probably by the time the draft law gets issued finally. But that's like one area that would definitely require some clarification. Then, of course, like banks and other financial institutions, telcos, a couple of existing institutions that might be able to commingle funds are no longer allowed to hold BDC licenses, which is also very helpful. So what it means, or what the implication of this is, that if you're a PSSP, and you want to start like doing like international trade, or a fintech, you want to start doing like exchange, that may not work for you, right? It has to be like by a totally different entity, and that's like one big elephant in the room for a lot of the fintechs. But it's like other ways they can, of course, play, right? Now there's like other opportunities that the law has also opened, which we might discuss subsequently, right? And then, of course, there's a limit to what they can sell now, right? So PTA is now like to individuals is 4,000, right? And then to businesses like 5,000 within any 6-month period. So as an individual, you're only entitled to 4,000 within 6 months, right? Which is another limitation. But yeah.
Yes, thank you for that elaborate explanation. And at different times you've mentioned fintechs, and I said Chief Godwin did an article from based on the guidelines. We are projecting that many of these businesses would have no choice but to go digital because of the different connections they have to bring on if they are going to survive with these new guidelines. So just give us a rundown of what that would mean.
Okay. So first, we have about 6,000 BDCs in the country. And the CBN is saying, if you're going to do business with us, you have to hook up to certain systems. So NIBS, for example, I'm guessing that's to track every transaction that happens. They would also have to hook up to FIRS, probably for reporting revenue. I don't know if that word hook up is...
I was going to... but go on.
I mean,
works.
sorry.
Yes, plug in.
Yeah, they have to plug into FIRS. They have to plug into... I think there's one more, I can't remember. But they have to plug into at least 3 different digital systems. I think and the NIN verification portal.
NIMC.
Through, yeah, I think that will happen through CBN. I'm not very sure. But they have to do all of that. And for people whose the bulk of their operations are manual, that's a lot to ask for right now. First of all, you need to hire people to do this. Mm-hmm. So, well, yes, you need to hire people to do this. That's extra money for them. Yeah. Already there's the challenge of the new capital requirements, which is more than... The new capital requirement is about 20 times what it used to be. It went from 35 million to 2 billion. So that's like a more than 20x increase if my math is correct. So first they have to battle that, and then they now have to figure out how to hire and pay the right technical talent. So that's the first problem. And now that I think about it, I just wonder how bad BDC operations would get over the next couple of months once that guideline is passed. Yes, the CBN says they're currently in, it's just a guideline. The idea is that they release it, they get feedback from the public, and then they make amendments where necessary. Mm-hmm. And stakeholders are also saying, okay, we are going to look at it. First of all, they are complaining about the capital requirements, which is kind of necessary, or not, which is expected. So they're complaining about that. But they're also saying, okay, we've heard you. We are going to do some. I don't know if they've had their meetings, but they were supposed to have zonal meetings this week or so, and then they would report their findings. But yeah, those are some of the problems they are going to face. Having to digitize their operations, on one hand, is good. On the other hand, it becomes really problematic. So why do I think it's good? You guys, your CBN has been pushing for a... sorry, I keep on disavowing Nigeria, but yes, your CBN has been pushing for digitization of our financial services for a very long time. This is one more way to do that, because if you go around certain parts of the country, you'll be besieged by these humans who are asking you to come trade dollar. That's one. So there's more visibility. Okay. Probably the CBN can now know if BDCs are their problem or not.
It's a sprint.
Exactly. No, this is now more than a sprint. But Yeah, for any avoidance of doubt, they would know whether their problem is BDCs or not. It's also, why do I now think it's going to be a problem? First is, if you've never done anything in technology in your life, there's like an adaptation period.
Yeah.
And right now, the rules are still very sketchy about the people who are not BDCs who can apply for this license. So first of all, banks cannot, both commercial banks and non-interest deposit banks can't get into this business. So banks are ruled out. Can fintechs do that? It's unclear. I've seen some people saying fintechs should get in, but the guidelines don't even make that very clear, because one, most fintechs are not commercial. In fact, I don't know any fintech that is a commercial bank. Malik, you can correct me if I'm missing anybody. There's almost no one. Even
Kuda be neobanks.
Yeah, Kuda is probably a microfinance bank, if I'm not mistaken. So there's almost no fintech that is a clear commercial bank. That's one problem. So which fintech takes advantage of that? Now, you're supposed to issue cards in conjunction with commercial banks. If you're not a commercial bank, you cannot do that. So is there really a space for fintechs to play right now? I think that's a question that we should ask Malik. Is there really any opportunity for fintechs right now?
Yes, there are a couple actually. So, number one, if you look at the integrations that they're asking the BDCs to do, right? I mean, whilst the law is like integrate to this, it didn't say you must integrate directly, right? And there's like fintech that are built as part of their solution, verification solutions that have integrated with with NIBS, right, for BVN verification. They've integrated with NIMC for ID verification. They've also integrated like several solutions. For example, even StartButton has integrations with FRS, right? For example, for like tax computation, right? So a fintech like StartButton, for example, to start with, will definitely be able to, BDCs would definitely be able to leverage our APIs for like tax verification and computation, right? Which would be very, very helpful for their business. So that's like one opportunity, one clear opportunity, right? On the PSSP side, right, now that the law is saying that all transactions should happen electronically, it's good for them because now they can power transfers, right, into like transfers to load the cards, transfers to unload the cards. Mobile money operators may be able to provide wallet services backing those cards, right? Ultimately, right? And then on the card issuance bit as well, right? The law is that only deposit-taking financial institutions will be able to issue cards. However, I mean, pretty much anybody can leverage their solutions to brand the card, right? And build technology on top of like existing card solutions, right? And in the industry, there's something we call BIN sponsorship, right? So you can work with a bank to get a BIN sponsorship relationship in place, right? To be able to issue cards even without being a bank, right? The only thing is that like the card brand has to be there and the bank has to be there as the sponsor, right? Ultimately. So that can actually happen. And we have a number of fintech currently doing that today, right? I mean, with card issuing solutions. And definitely those fintechs will be able to, of course, like benefit from this new regime. So on that side as well, you see like fintechs also playing, right? The only bit that I'm not sure of now is the cross-border leg of it, right? So I came thinking about if I'm a foreigner, I come into Nigeria, I didn't come with cash, but I want to bring in money to Nigeria and then exchange with a BDC. Does it mean I have to do that only through IMTOs? And I cannot just bring the money in USD, right? And then exchange with a BDC, get a card and use and go. It's left for us to see how that would play out. But I think fintechs might be able to play in that area as well. But I'm not particularly sure how that would work just yet. But that's like another very important area that I see fintechs playing. So like it's the opportunities are there, to be honest. And then there's still the opportunity of actually just building the whole thing and serving as a technical partner for the BDC. So we have some fintechs that they are fintechs, but they are more of like software providers ultimately.
Yeah.
So it's like core banking apps, right? For MFBs and banks, right? And they've built probably like apps to manage financial services, right? They've built fintech as a service, right? Which I mean, they can just like these BDCs can plug and play ultimately, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like multi layers is like Anchor doing like awesome stuff in the BaaS space as well. As like fintech as a service space, there's Block. There's like a number of solutions already that the BDCs can just like plug into and get started, to be fair. So let's see how this plays out, right? It's just left for people to see the opportunities, but yes, the opportunities are actually there, right? There will be a lot of partnerships as well, right? So you bring license, I'll bring technology, and let's work together. That would also happen.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Malik. So it's not all gloom. So I think while these conversations are still going on with CBN, I think this would be a good time for the well-established BDC operators to start having conversations with fintech, right? So we understand that more BDC operators will collude to get the license because of how expensive it is. So when they come together, they should be having the conversations already about these people that already have the understanding and the infrastructure to help them instead of trying to start from the scratch. Especially
the
with
fintechs
coming
can
to
actually make the move since there's a whole lot for them to gain here. So, I mean, if you're a fintech, you should probably be making any move right now.
So yeah, so while the conversation is still going on with the bank, with CBN, this fintech should also be having conversations about these partnerships already, approaching each other. And I think, yes, as Malik mentioned, there are opportunities here and it is left to the ecosystem to tap into it. And finally, let's just move on to...
Well, I have a question again, right? So now
Okay.
with
Are you the one that
Markdown
will
on
answer it though?
no. It's just like a general question. But with
Okay.
my problem is now that like the pricing is also determined, right? So you as BDC, when you get your allocation, you can only mark up or mark down with 1% and nothing more, right? Whilst 1% looks like a lot, ultimately that's if you're doing like a lot of
By the
transactions.
time it's shared.
Yeah, by the time it's split between like all of these things like AWS costs and a number of things, man, I feel like yeah, it would be a very hard sell. But let's see how it works ultimately. But I just thought
Yes.
I think
Yes.
we should share that with the BDC guys so that they will consider that in their negotiations with the CBN.
I think they should.
Yes. Because eventually you have to look at the cost too. Because if they say they want to start building their infrastructure from scratch,
Yeah, that's extra cost.
extra cost on the BDCs.
Yeah.
Say fintech wants to tap into this new regime too. They might want to have to, even if they can't get the license, they will look for a way to do merging or acquisition or anything. So I think it's just to look at the cost. I'm not in this space, but these are the things that should come up during the conversations.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping like this sounds like good news. Like there will be a time where these foot soldiers will come together with the
Online soldiers.
keyboard warriors and online warriors, and I didn't see that coming. But
I
yes,
hope
we
they
are looking
don't
forward
fight.
to that time. That they will fight. No, there's not you. They will not fight.
CBN
But
will separate the
eventually,
fight.
okay. So maybe in another 3 months. Well, with the speed with which CBN implements this, except is to do crackdown. They don't usually put,
I mean, these ones are also moving fast. They plan to have a meeting this week.
Okay.
So if the meeting is done, guessing it's now a meeting with the CBN. So yeah, if it
In a few
it probably
months.
shouldn't take a lot of time.
Okay, in a few months. So yes,
Still on the CBN.
still on the CBN. It's all CBN today because everybody's talking about the economy. And
And
we
those has
can't.
to pay us for doing PR work for you.
CBN,
Yeah.
Cardoso, should
Has to
pay
pay
you for
us.
PR. It doesn't need you for PR actually. The comments he made on
enough.
Tuesday are enough PR. So then there was something that stood out during the conversation or that Olayemi Cardoso had on Tuesday at the MPC meeting. And the one that actually probably shook fintechs too, and everybody was increasing the monetary policy rate, MPR. Now, because you are going to help us understand how it take concern me, the MPR, and how does this flow? When does it get to me as the final consumer? When does it get to the fintech? How does it affect the banks? So just help us to understand that.
Okay, first one, how soon will it get to you? Just give it like 2 weeks. It will touch you. But maybe you start with a definition of MPR for some people. Basically, it's like I call it a policy tool that CBN or central banks can use to determine interest rates in a country. So you increase it, it means that interest rates are going up. Banks and any lender has to now operate with certain parameters. Banks and lenders now have to operate within certain parameters. Usually, nobody is going to be lending to you below the rate set by the CBN, or nobody's going to be doing that. But how does it now concern you? So you may not know, but it will still affect you. It affects the businesses that you patronize, and then those, as a result, it affects you. So let's start with the ones that are closest to us, fintechs. So first is that the digital lenders now have to up their interest rates. So first of all, it's going to be more expensive for you to borrow money from any lender. If you want to borrow money, you may have
likes of
Fair Money, Carbon,
OP.
yes.
Pampy.
It's going to get
Money Point also as a lending service.
I don't
For
think they are
businesses.
doing that.
For businesses.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure they are emphasizing it a lot right now. But yeah, it's going to get more expensive. I don't know if you wanted to get a loan. I don't know if it's too late. But you should have gotten that loan yesterday. But it's going to get harder. It's going to get more expensive for businesses, individuals to get loans. It's also going to get more expensive for for the lenders themselves to get the money that they are lending to you. So the reason is most of them are not lending with their money. So a bank has the luxury of lending with deposits. Most digital lenders have to borrow from banks and then on-lend to their customers. So now, as a bank, I'm not going to give you money at a loss simply because you want to do business. So I'm going to give you money at increased rates, and then that means you now have to pass that cost on to your customers. So it now trickles down in so many ways. One is that less people are probably going to, or fewer people are going to borrow money from anybody. In fact, your banks are most likely not going to give you money. That's what a lot of people are expecting.
Sorry to cut you short. At some point in Nigeria, the government was trying to force banks to give loans.
Yes. Okay, so maybe I should have pointed out that the increasing interest rates is like a move that central banks use to stem inflation.
Yeah.
So basically to reduce the supply of money in an economy.
Yeah.
But is there money in this economy?
That's a good question. I believe there's someone that should be answering that question. But the idea of increasing the interest rate is to stem the flow of money, reduce it, and then basically right now we can say there's no money, yes. But that's actually the idea.
It's tricky.
Yes, it's tricky. But really,
tricky,
there isn't money because one of the biggest drivers for inflation is food inflation. And that is because we have rising insecurity. And I think Cardozo mentioned it during the MPC meeting that one of the major drivers of inflation right now is insecurity in certain parts of the country where food is produced. If you don't curb that, you can't really say that, and that's also something to point out, that if you don't curb food inflation, the general inflation we're experiencing is not going to come down. But moving on to fintech, something that's going to happen is on one hand, the revenues of our lenders could go up. Their revenues,
yes.
But no, I think maybe it will cancel out because
so the thing is,
because more people will not borrow.
Okay, so let's say I have 10,000 users.
So I want to clear something before you go on. So this NPR that was increased by 4% to 22.75% is the rate at which CBN is giving banks. So when banks want to give our lenders, there will be something on it also.
Of course.
So that means it's not meeting us, the end users, at 22.75%. It's like it's going to increase like that. So go on.
Yes. So where was I again? Okay, yeah, I'll say now let's say I have 10,000 users and like 10,000 active users. And out of the 10,000, let's say 3,000 say they're no longer borrowing money. I'm left with 7,000. Now I can actually make money with less people. Sorry, make more money with less people. It's very possible because I'm increasing my interest rate. So
and
those
these people have good credit score. That's why
I'm still coming to that. But with a smaller group of people, I can actually make more money by increasing my rates. The problem now becomes, can the people I'm lending to, or will they repay? Which is where NPLs are probably going to come.
Because default rate is high already.
Yes, we can expect that a lot of digital lenders are going to see really serious default rates, because sometimes, yes, you can say that Nigerians don't like repaying loans, but in some cases it's also a case of I take a loan, something unexpected happens the next month and I'm unable to repay,
like losing job.
I lose a job, or I don't know, maybe lose a loved one and I have to use the money for something else and I'm now unable to repay. So I think we are going to see NPLs go high. Whether they will tell us
are non-performing loans.
Yeah, so basically the loans that the loans that their customers are unable to pay. Whether you pay it, I think this guy Chijoke Dozie mentioned it last week. Whether you pay the loan back in 3 months or in 4 months, they are going to take they will take a hit. So yes, that's one problem we are going to see. Whether the lenders decide to tell us that they have collected hand or not is a different case. But something that could also happen is that if you use certain savings app, who I will not mention, you could get higher interest rates on your savings. There's a possibility that happens.
Because it's the money you save that they're lending other people to.
So you may get higher interest rates in the next few weeks. Like I mentioned, you are going to, if a business, you probably should have gotten messages from your bank already telling you about the NPR and how it will affect your loan. For customers, it may take a while, especially if you borrow 5K. It's probably going to take a while. But yes, those are some of the ways that we can expect it to affect fintechs and their customers.
So there was one thing that you touched. I think Malik should be able to speak to this about if you're saving with these banks, with these fintechs. NPR was not the only thing that was increased. Cash reserve ratio was also increased to 45%. I don't know if that will have an implication on how much the banks can have access to, even if they want to give out loans.
Yeah, so I was going to mention that after Chigozuri, which is like another problem is like, would I want to fix more money now that I know that people are no longer borrowing, right?
Yeah.
Because like the essence of increasing NPR is like to discourage money like in circulation and reduce purchasing power, right? To a large extent, right? So when that is done, it means like people would not have the incentive to borrow more money, right? And if people are not borrowing more money, then like I as an investor, I mean, like I won't be able to make like as much returns, right? But I feel like if people, because there's no money either ways, so I think people will still borrow money regardless. But that's some speculation on my side,
it's the
right?
return in that we can't tell.
Exactly. So yeah, of course, like repayments, there'll be a lot of defaults, right? Which we're not able to speak to. But in terms of like the reserves, I feel that would it affect fintechs? I'm not sure. Why? Because it's not all fintechs that are directly regulated by the CBN. Like, I mean, except you're talking about like maybe microfinance banks or those ones who have like microfinance bank license. Yes, but those it would affect them to a large extent because then they will still have loan to deposit ratio that they need to keep regardless. So they're like mandated to borrow money regardless, and they have a ratio of loan to deposits, like which is the amount of depositors' funds that you can actually lend on a good day. So those ones would be impacted, but a lot of the other folks that are using cooperative license and all of those things, I mean, I don't think it would impact them as much, right? So that's like my take on this.
Yeah. So it's like we are moving into a period where it's not new having a lot of regulatory measures put in place, and it's like it's becoming more aggressive. I'm thinking of the survival rate of
Businesses.
fintechs, because one of the predictions that Adedi Jolowe made at the beginning of the year was more fintechs closing shops. Is this one of the things that will kill them, apart from the money, apart from the venture VC market? Is this one of the things that will kill fintechs?
So Cardozo said we are moving into an aggressive regulatory environment.
Okay.
And he's been saying that since last year, not with those words, but he's been hinting that regulation is going to get more strict.
It was actually stern.
Yeah.
Like, on Tuesday,
since last year. Like, I mean, last year it was payment fintechs that they were talking about, or he was talking about, who were probably carrying out activities outside the license that they were issued.
Mm-hmm.
And there was I think there was a period where there was a circular that was put out, and even the people who were supposed to be the recipients of the circular were confused as to whether it affected them or not. And everybody was rushing to issue statements to customers saying, no concern also, just chill. So will it kill? I don't know. Exactly, I'm not the right. So I don't know. Yes, regulations can kill fintechs, but except your crypto, yeah. If regulations kill you under Cardozo, I don't know what we should say about you. Maybe it's more of an...
You're not meant to survive in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. You probably shouldn't be playing in this space if Cardozo's regulation kills you. Because what he's trying to do is to like restrict what you can do and confine you to the original license you got. So if his regulations kill you, I don't know what that says about you.
The way you're saying it.
No, like, yeah, I mean, so regulations are supposed to... Sorry, Malik, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to add to what you said, right? So the thing is this, right? You know, I mean, fintech has evolved over the years, right? When the whole thing started, right? Everybody was shouting disruption, right? And that was the theme of everything. So which means
now regulation one disrupted.
Maybe it's the other way around now. Yeah. But the thing is, like, a lot of people built based off being able to provide what existing financial institutions could not provide or could not do. Now, what a lot of people did not also understand is that those financial institutions could not do it because the law does not permit, right? So when they start with the ideology of, why is the bank not doing this? Right? Why is this one not this? We can do this. We build this. We connected this to this, and it's working, right? And then you keep building it. For example, outbound remittances, right? If you look at the trajectory, like the way things have been for some years now, right? Let's even forget about the new IMTO guideline from like last month or so. Yeah, January, right? I don't think CBN has issued an outbound license in a long time. Right? So a lot of IMTOs have not been able to do outbound, right? Now, as a fintech, you come out and say, my own business is doing outbound remittance for people in Nigeria. What even the banks cannot do. Then your investors or anybody asks you, what licenses would you need to get? You say IMTO, right? It makes sense because if you look at the law, it allows for inbound and outbound. But the practicality of it, CBN had already issued circular that, okay, for now, no outbound, right? But it's not in the law. You're not privy to it. A lot of people don't consult. They don't ask questions. They just start, right? Then you start doing outbound. Then you find out that when you apply for your license, you raise money, you now apply for license, then you're stuck because they will issue you an inbound license. Then you now come back and say, regulation has killed me. The question to you would be, did you look at the regulation
Why you
before?
not ask question?
Exactly. The same thing happened with the ride hailing, the bike hailing businesses at some point. The law has always been there. The law has always been there before they started the whole thing. And some of them knew, but they felt like they'll be able to reform the law. So that also happens a whole lot, right? And that's why you find that a lot of people relying on outbound were doing crypto. So use crypto to move the money back and forth. Right. But now that they are cracking down on crypto, it will become a problem. So if you're going to look at it, right, very clearly, whilst regulation is trying to just balance interests, that's if you look at regulation, it's just balancing interests. But the interests ultimately may not be in your favor. That is the only problem. But the law always constantly balances the interest between the public, the public and the business and the customers, basically. That is,
And the people using it.
yeah, and the people and the citizens, exactly. So if you look at it from that perspective, if they make a law, they need to favor the majority, which is the people. Of course, it will not favor some businesses, right? And of course, some businesses will die in the process. So it is not like regulation would directly kill those businesses, but those businesses either have to evolve or maybe shut down, sadly.
Die.
So
You can pivot to tech, by the way.
Sorry?
No. Why
So they
fintech
can pivot to tech.
Exactly, they can pivot to something else. I mean, yeah, we have people that pivoted to very not even verticals now, where you say, okay, you pivot from one type of pivoted totally, start selling food, right? So yeah, so we've had that, and I mean it's not also a bad thing, right? Provided you keep the business going, you keep the lifeline running, right? I think it's fine.
Yeah, so it's interesting times in the startup ecosystem, and we're hoping all this would push.
Sorry, I have a very
to
funny question to ask on this, right?
okay.
Personally, January, I was very excited. I was excited because of the VASP regulation, right? When CBN said, oh, you know what, banks, right, you might be able to deal with VASP services under these terms. I was excited because I feel like if you structure it properly, get a VASP license, even though you're not doing crypto, because people need to understand the difference, right? Crypto is different from virtual assets. A virtual asset is a general name, so crypto is just one of. So, right, but with that, it was like a signal that a lot of people banked on, including investors. And I'm wondering what the state will be right now, because the moment CBN issued that guideline, everybody that has hung their boots went back to dust it to start business, and then this happens, right? I think it would be good just it would be good to check what the impact of some of these things are. I mean, is it that SEC will now halt issuing licenses as well? What exactly is going to happen from here? I would really like to hear people's thoughts on that too.
Okay. I mean, this is a clear case of you ask me who I go ask. It's I don't know really. Like you mentioned, a lot of people are banking on a specific set of regulations, and now they can't really bank on that anymore. For investors, they are probably going to be the ones that suffer the most. I don't know if you've noticed, but Nigerian startups are suffering a lot. They're not raising as much as they used to. This month alone, I've been trying to count, and I can't count a lot. So people are probably going to be less likely to invest in startups. For those who maybe got into the space with the intention of taking advantage of some of the previous changes, and now maybe some things are being walked back, again, they may just have to go to a less regulated industry or a less volatile regulatory environment. But really, it's I guess it's still difficult. But yeah, good question. We should probably go ask people on the streets who are directly affected how it has influenced their planning for 2024.
So apart from that, to business, Nigerian businesses find a way to adapt. You get
You don't have a choice now.
Yes, so they find a way to adapt. Yes, they count their losses and they just move on from there.
Yeah.
So, but yes, it will be something we should try to do to get the stories of how they were able to survive through that period. And as I mentioned the other time, it's like sprint. It's like they just throw this to them. Let's give it 1 month and then we move on to other things.
Running business model as sprints now.
Yeah,
how many sprints you want to run?
When your regulator is doing it, what do you want to do? You get just this year alone. You know how many sprints we've run.
See.
So let's hope that CBN finds one of all these things they are doing that actually works, and probably be held accountable for them for all these things that they are doing. Accountable. Wishful thinking on my end. Apologies for that. But yes, thank you guys. Thank you, Malik, for contributing to these conversations. Bolu and Shimgozrim, thank you for how you been able to contribute to it. And if you're listening to this conversation and you have something to add, you can always tweet at us. If you listened to an excerpt on Twitter, you can tweet at us. But if you want to send like a comprehensive contribution, just send it to podcast@techpoint.africa. Podcast@techpoint.africa. We would like to hear what you think about these conversations as it concerns the Nigerian economy. We can also go to the TechPoint Africa website to read more of the stories that made the news this week. We can't discuss everything on the TechPoint Africa podcast, but you can go there and catch up with all the news for the week. Don't also forget that we have our newsletters that are active, TechPoint Digest, which is a roundup of news in the African tech space for each day, every week, every work weekday. We send TechPoint Digest out. Also, there is Modern Workplace newsletter, which goes out every Mondays and Wednesday, that talks about the labor and the work and HR industry. We also have Equity Merchant that focuses on startups and investment. So do well to subscribe to this newsletter, especially if it's in the space or in the industry you are playing in. If you're listening to us and you want to tell other people to listen to TechPoint Africa podcasts, I mean audio, Bolu, can you tell them where they can be referred to?
Okay, to get the full version of this podcast, you can find us on our audio podcast platforms such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcast.
Yes, just search for TechPoint Africa Podcast and you'll find us on all these platforms. Thanks for joining us every week. And that will be all from us for now. Bye. Thank you, Malik, for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.